Yo, what is up, guys? It's Pedro here. The Washington Commanders with an incredible win, 27-10 against the LA Chargers. Jayden Daniels is back, and so are the Washington Commanders. A great game overall. Not a lot to complain about, a lot to be happy about. We're going to talk about all of it in today's video. If you guys new, do all that good stuff. Hype up the video, like it, comment down below your top 3 players performance-wise for the Commanders in this game. A lot of guys to list. Let's talk about Jayden Daniels. He was really good in this game. 15 for 26 in this game. And then, 231 yards, 1 touchdown. Had a very, very solid game for the Commanders. And Chris Moore, he's on the can kick list. He had a awful drop in the end zone. Should have been 2 touchdowns for Chris Moore, for Jayden Daniels, with one of them being to Chris Moore. But 15 for 26 for 231 yards. I mean, that's crazy. 15 completions for 231 yards. Like, the air yards were there, especially with some of the yards per completion were there, and some of the completions were long air yards, some of them were dump offs, but Debo, that touchdown pass was great. Luke McCaffrey, that pass was absolutely perfect. I mean, it was a little bit, if you were picky, a little overthrown, but I mean, Luke McCaffrey went down and made a great catch, and again, a really good ball by Jayden Daniels. And I feel like a couple, him making a couple plays, like I think he said to the broadcaster, maybe it was the broadcaster saying like he needs to see one go through the hoop, but I think they said he mentioned that, and that is exactly what happened. Once he hit a couple, then he starts to the rest of them start to fall. So Jayden Daniels, really good game. He gets a game ball in today's game, 1 sack. The running, it wasn't he seemed a little bit slower in the beginning, getting used to that brace. I will say, I do think the runs that Cliff chooses for Jayden are a little bit different than they are for Mariota, and also Mariota's a lot better at reading them. Some of the rushes I did not love in terms of the execution by Jayden, but also just what the call was. Bill Croskey, Merritt, game ball. I know he had the fumble, but everything else he did outweighs that. 14 carries, 111 yards, 8 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. But guess what? Not only that, he had 2 catches for 39 yards on 2 targets. So guess what? That is 150 yards from scrimmage in this game. He did have the fumble. That is bad. But besides that, he had a really, really good game, and he gets a game ball probably at the top of the list offensively. Chris Rodriguez was fine, just kind of late stuff, and then Jeremy McNichols had a nice the 6-yard carry wasn't what I was thinking about. It was the 12-yard catch he had. Debo Samuel's been balling out. 8 catches, 96 yards, 1 touchdown on 11 targets, and just doing it all over the field, some short, some long. So he gets a game ball. Luke McCaffrey, maybe not a game ball, but he definitely gets a hat tip. Had really good catch, and then return wise he was good. So I would like to see a little bit more, not in terms of more than 50-yard catches, but maybe more than 1 catch. But that 1 catch was more than any of our receivers had in terms, besides Debo, in the game total. So Jalen Lane had a nice catch, a 16-yard catch on a 3rd and 15 or something, 3rd and 16. So that was a nice catch. And then Jayden missed him on another throw, and then John Bates had a nice catch. Tate Martin, or not a crazy catch, he had a catch. Tate Martin had a catch. He also had a penalty or 2. Zach Ertz has been interesting. The last few weeks he's done really nothing, and you'd expect it a little bit with Jayden out, but he was back today and really didn't do much. But offense was good in today's game. I know some people might say like they didn't need to score that touchdown at the end of the game, but one of my friends, shout out to Sasquatch, was saying we've seen a lot of block kicks so far this year. And you don't want that, it's 20-10. It's still improbable, but if they block that kick, return it for a touchdown, now it's 20-17, and they can onside kick it and they're in field goal range. So obviously, it's unlikely for it to happen, but it's understandable why they went for that final dagger there. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about offensively. Special teams wise, Matt Gay was 2 for 2, nothing crazy, 3 for 3 extra points. Luke McCaffrey had a nice 40-yard return. Mikey Sainristil, let's talk about the defense. Mike Sainristil had an interception, and Marshawn Lattimore recovered a fumble, and Quan Martin forced a fumble. That was the turning point in this game. After that, the Commanders defense absolutely balled out. I mean, let's talk 10 points in this game. And after that, the Commanders offense really started to click. So, shout out to Quan Martin for forcing that fumble. Maybe it was head to head. I don't know. I mean, he did hit his head, but also the defender was going down, and seemed like Quan maybe initiated with his shoulder a little bit. But, even if he did with his head, which I don't know. I didn't even see the replay too many times. It looked like probably he initiated contact with his head, but also the defender or the offensive guys going down. So it was a really good play regardless by Quan Martin, and that kind of changed the game. The roughing the punter, obviously, that was a huge call in this game. I saw it from the beginning, so I wasn't too upset with the return touchdown. I knew it was going to get, called back. So, that was good. And, the Commanders end up scoring a field goal, almost end up scoring a touchdown. If they would have been able to spike it a little bit quicker and get like 7 seconds, maybe 8 seconds left on the clock, then they definitely could have ran a play before kicking the field goal. But they made the right decision there, in my opinion, by kicking the field goal with 5 seconds left. That's not enough time to run a play comfortably, definitely not, and might not be enough to run the play at all. Real quick, a word from today's sponsor. And a huge shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring today's video. Make sure you guys go ahead and check them out. They got a new deal where you get a free $20 entry. All you got to do is just sign up, and also my code, you can still use my promo code Pedro on Sleeper and get 100% match up to $100. It's a really good deal. You put in 10, you'll get 20, and you can win real money on Sleeper. We're 3 for 4 in terms of weeks where we're getting winning plays and winning weeks. So make sure you guys check out Sleeper. All right, and a huge shout out to Sleeper. Also, my picks, I don't think I posted them just because, had a bunch of stuff back home, went to a career fair and stuff, but they did go 3 for 3. Keenan Allen over receiving yards, Bill Croskey Merritt over rushing yards, and Hampton over receiving. But, this defense did pretty good, I would say. Run defense-wise, if you look at their running backs, it wasn't bad. Hampton, 3.7. Vidal, 4.5. Hassan Haskins, 2.6. And it was really Herbert who got 4 for 60 that really killed them. So the run defense was good in this game. Pass defense, surprisingly, was very good. Early on it was bad. Keenan Allen getting, a reception, and, Jeremy Reeves missing a tackle there. It went further. You got, Ladd McConkey scoring that touchdown. Looked like Frankie Luvu, was, poor in coverage there. And yeah, it wasn't great, but then it started to turn around and guys started making plays. Jordan McGee was making plays. Bobby Wagner made plays. Mike Sainristil, he had the really bad offsides. That cannot happen, dude. Like, especially when it's 4th and 5, you got to understand the situation you're in. You never want to be offsides, but at least be offsides on 4th and 15, on 4th and 20, where it's not really going to impact things too much. But if it's 4th and 5, man, like, you cannot jump off sides, and that, cost the team 4 points right there. But he made it up with the interception. It evens out, because, the Chargers are going to score 3, maybe 7 there. And then, let's see, Quan Martin had the forced fumble. He was good. Jeremy Reeves off and on. He definitely did have some big misses in this game. He also had some nice plays. He had the pass breakup in the end zone on the first possession, and then, had some nice tackles, but also had some misses. Javon Kinlaw, huge game today, in terms of run defense, 4 tackles, 3 solo. Interesting, there was no TFLs, but he basically, a lot of those tackles were at the line of scrimmage. And there was one where he Bobby Wagner's right there, and he's about to stuff, I don't know if it was Hampton or the other running back, and then, the guy cuts a little bit, and he meets Javon Kinlaw. So that was funny to see. I think that might have been Hassan Haskins, not completely sure. But Kinlaw had a good game. Frankie Luvu a little bit up and down. He had some nice plays, but he also missed some tackles. Dorrance Armstrong, we got to talk about that dude, because so far, I believe he has 5 sacks on the season, and he's playing like an elite edge rusher in this league. He's been getting pressure, and it was good to see today Joe Witt did not throw him back into coverage. Von Miller, shout out to him, 1.5 sacks. Did get a garbage time sack at the end there, but it counts in the stat sheet, and shout out to him. Besides that, still had a nice play. Jordan McGee, you see his stats, 3 tackles, 1 solo, 1 TFL, and had some pressures on the quarterback too. He did have some pressures on the quarterback, and even if he kind of missed it, it was still a good play. Johnny Newton, he gets a game ball. And other guys on the defense that get a game ball, Dorrance Armstrong, I guess you can give Von Miller one. Johnny Newton, though, I'll give him a game ball, 2 tackles, 2 solo, 1 sack, 1 TFL, QB hit, and a pass break, or pass, whatever you want to call it, when the D-line, he didn't bat it down, but he tipped the pass, which counts as basically pass deflection, and because of that, Mikey Sainristil intercepts it. So both those guys combined for that interception. And then you got Trey Amos and Marshawn Lattimore, who, we're talking a lot of ish about Marshawn Lattimore this past week, but today it wasn't too bad. Same thing with Trey Amos, it was good. Preston Smith played. Apparently Deron Payne had some good plays getting to the quarterback, and Colson Yankoff had he had a penalty. Let's see who else. Laramie Tunsil had a penalty. Trent Scott's got to lock in. He had 2 penalties in 1 drive. And I'm trying to go through any other penalties. Offensive line, I thought they started off the game pretty poorly, or at least it just wasn't looking good, whether it was Jayden, maybe not handling the pressure really well, or, not setting up the protections, or just the offensive line not doing well, but they really adjusted and they started playing pretty well. And Jayden only got sacked 1 time, and Herbert got sacked in comparison 4 times, and Trey Lance got sacked once by Von Miller. So really good day for the team overall, 27 points. And it's not like, I'm not counting that touchdown as garbage time because they were driving. I always say when, in those scenarios, it's, if anything, especially when they don't score, I almost add that to the, score, because they would have scored. They're just running out the clock. And in this scenario, I talked about it earlier, why I think they ended up, trying to score. And shout out there to Deebo Samuel and Jayden Daniels for getting it done. 3-2 on the season, 2-1 with Jayden Daniels. Next week against the Chicago Bears. It's a game everyone in this fan base really, really wants, and got to get that win. Hopefully, I believe it's on Monday night, so you get an extra day. Hopefully, that's an extra day that's enough for Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown to come back. But thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Also, Sam Cosme. But thanks for watching, and peace.